Hey Nerd Herds, Dynasty Nerds here with another video, and we have 6 wide receivers that are 27 under that we think are fantastic buys for your Dynasty Fantasy Football team.
We talk some more.
More.
Oh God, that'd be a win.
Ready, set, hut. Welcome to the Dynasty Nerds Fantasy Football Podcast, where we discuss dynasty strategy, rankings, and all things NFL. So get ready to geek out on fantasy football with your host, Rich Dotson.
And welcome to the Dynasty Nerds Fantasy Football Podcast. I'm your host, Rich Dotson, here, and my fellow nerds, Matt O'Hara.
Hey.
Hey, Garret Price.
How's it going?
It's going swell because we're talking wide receivers. Dynasty wide receivers.
Good catch.
We're talking buys.
Yeah.
Good buys. Best buys. We'll sell you TVs. Yeah, that's what we're doing today.
Sure, why not?
So I know last week we said we do the sells on the free show. Then we pivoted because we got a lot of stuff to talk about when it comes to sells on the Nerd Herd show. So you got to tune into that by joining the Nerd Herd.
Pivot.
Get in there.
Pivot.
So, wide receiver is, the dynasty, core. If the world was dynasty, the core, the hot magma.
The molten
Yeah, that's the center.
metal.
And then, just kind of, unless it was super flex. That's the quarterback.
What world is this? This is a multiverse of dynasty leagues.
Yeah, for sure. There's different dimensions. It's from out here.
So if it's a standard league, the core is running back.
No, it's still wide receivers.
Okay.
Yeah, you still
I haven't played standard league so long, I honestly don't even know.
I wouldn't even know what to tell you.
Yeah, I don't even remember too. I remember back in the day when somebody's like, dude, we should make this league a PPR league. I was like, what?
What?
You give somebody 1 point for just catching a football?
For just catching?
It's like, yeah, man, it's going to be the way of the future. I'm like, what? No way.
You
Right now, I would never play. Our Dennis Bennett gets some. I play standard.
And he's in one
league, I know.
He makes it sound like that's all he plays.
Right. It's got to be some old dinosaur league that just never changed the rules.
I know a guy that plays in a touchdown-only league. That's the only way to get points.
How can we make this as boring as possible?
Right.
Touchdowns only.
Jamal Williams, the number 1 overall player in 2023,
Talk
2022.
Talk about a monster, right?
Yeah, for sure. So it's like, but even now, I don't want to join any leagues that aren't super flex tight and premium.
Right.
I know you want oh, dude, this is just a 1 QB league. I'm like, oh man, all right, I'll do it. Wait on quarterbacks for 7 rounds now.
It does give you different strategies for sure.
Yeah, we're gonna talk about some wide receivers that we think are quality buys, and when it comes to buying receivers, it's just about timing. It's everything, even with the sells. Even some of the guys I'm gonna talk about as sells in the next episode. I like the players. It's just I think the ADP and the value is a little bit
Just not, they
put
don't mesh.
together.
Little wonky.
And I'll explain myself. I'll give reasoning. I'll talk about it like it's like a podcast.
Oh, that makes sense.
Here's my opinion.
This would be a good format for a podcast.
Tune in.
Yeah.
What, talking Dynasty Fantasy Football. So before we get into that, though, I got to tell you guys about a great way to win $3 million.
What?
Yeah. $3 million. Can you use it?
Tell me more.
Yeah.
Oh, dude, I would just love to be able to talk Dynasty every day. Not everybody listening would like that, but if you give me $3 million, I'm doing Dynasty every single day. So please go to my GoFundMe. The goal is $3 million. Actually, just $2 million. My wife will let me quit my job.
$2 million bucks?
Millions. Yeah.
Yeah. Make it 4 so we can both quit.
Yeah, let's make it 4.
6 would be
Garrett.
better.
All right, Garrett.
At least 4.
All right.
Yeah.
4.5.
We're going to start a GoFundMe. Actually,
Please, I want some more.
I'm not technically advanced enough to start a GoFundMe.
Somebody start a GoFundMe for me.
We have an entire site, but we can't figure out GoFundMe.
We are obviously not the technical ones behind the site.
God, I wish I was friends with Jeff Bezos. Jeff, come on, listen. We got an audience. All we need is the finance, and we can do a show every day.
Every day.
Yeah, you know Howard Stern? We'll be the Howard Sterns of Dynasty Fantasy Football.
Yep.
Well, that's my sell.
There you go.
We could be the Howard Sterns I could be the Howard Stern.
It is with your host, Rich Dotson, and nobody else.
You can be Fred Norris, and he'll be Robin Quivers. Sexy man over there. But let me tell you how to win $3 million first.
That's how we started this.
I'm doing this, and I have a chance. So, I might win $3 million. Sure. And if you want to do, all you got to do is go to underdogfantasy.com or download the app right now. It's the easiest way to go play fantasy football and best ball fantasy. Best ball, remember, is when you just draft a team, which is that biggest fun of all of it. And that's it. You just play, it sets your best lineup every single week for you. You draft and forget it. Then every week you're checking, see where you go. And right now, the chance to win the $3 million is it's only $25 to enter. And they have $15 million in total prizes. So you don't want to miss out on that part. And it's best ball. So it's really easy to do. You just get in there, you draft, and you let it go, and you hope you win $25 million. And what it is you go on there, you download the app, and you can enter the Best Ball Mania tournament, try and win the big bucks, or you can just play with friends. You could have 6 people leagues, 3 people leagues, and you can play for as little as $3 as well. And, we all know, dynasty startups are fun because of the draft. We know we play redraft. Most of us now is just to have fun and draft players that we don't have on our dynasty squads. At least that's what I do. So it's just that fun thing to do in draft. And you go flat, quick drafts, or you can do the 8-hour clock drafts, which are the slow ones. And that's why I always enter, because every single time, and I did it again, I enter the quick draft.
Then you miss a couple picks.
Then I get a text or something. No, and I entered Best Ball Mania one, $25, right? Best Ball Mania. I get a text. I text back. I text back. I text back. I text back.
That's all text backs.
Literally 5-6 minutes later, I'm going, I did it again, didn't I? I go on there. Whole team drafted. Whole team drafted. So I'm a slow guy. I need a slow draft guy.
You need to be a slow draft.
I do one after the other. So get on there. Check them out. Underdog Fantasy right now. Best Ball Mania. And they have all they have the big dog, the little dog, the poodle, all that to win. You can win $100,000. All these different contests on there. Go on there. Check it out. It's more than football, but I only care about football because that's my
That's
mistress.
your thing.
Yeah, that's my thing. And right now, it's a really great promo by using a promo code NERDS. If you sign up, use the promo code NERDS. They're going to match your first deposit up to $100. But on top of that, you're going to free 1-year membership to the Dynasty GM and the Nerd Herd. And all you have to do is deposit $10. That's it. $10. You support them. You support us. You win $3 million. We're all happy. And if you're even a Nerd Herd member already, we'll send you a shirt. The most comfortable shirt in the world. Guaranteed to increase your sex life by at least 10%.
Okay. Yeah.
Promise. Rich Dotson guarantee.
That's a Rich Dotson guarantee.
So, Underdog Fantasy promo code NERDS. Get rich. Get sexy. Get in the nerd.
I wear mine almost every day.
I know. Look at you.
Yep.
Jealous.
We're twinning today.
Yeah, we are.
Yeah, I wonder why.
Please, everyone, say that I wore it better.
Thanks. The Bears.
Your wife will.
Maybe.
Probably not. Just get a good look at this hunk of meat over here. All right, so.
That's sexual harassment.
It sure the heck is. Now, show me your nipples. I can only say that because you won't sue me.
That's true.
And I would never say it to anybody else because they would sue me.
That's true.
Garrett, show me your nipples. Now, I don't wear a dress shirt
Calling
today.
my lawyer.
And my wife literally said as I went down, she was like, I think I could see your nipples. And I'm like, lucky. And I walked out the door. She does not think I'm funny.
But we do. So
No, she's got to listen to those dumb jokes until I die.
till death.
Hopefully that's a long time. So wide receiver buys, right? So we're trying to find value because we all need a good wide receiver on our team. You don't have enough of them. They're flex spots. They're trade bait.
Need lots of good. I mean, if you're going to be a championship team, you need 3 or 4 good wide receivers. Easily.
Yeah, I'm
probably
in this.
5. Right?
We're doing a Dynasty Kings Classic where, if you know the King Classic leagues, they've all been redraft leagues. I've been lucky enough to be the commissioner of the first Dynasty Kings Classic.
Yeah, you have.
I invited all the big hitters in the business. Ryan McDowell, Rich Rebar. We'd already talked about this, right?
Mm-hmm.
Not too long ago. And I took, for the first time ever, I took the 1 quarterback, and then I took 3 wide receivers right afterwards. Tight end premium.
Bang.
Didn't take a tight end. Didn't take a second quarterback. Drake London, CeeDee Lamb, Devontae Smith. I feel really good about it.
Not in that order.
Because it's, not in order. But I had a 112. But that core, I know, gives me a safe zone of where I'll always be able to find value at receiver later in the draft or rookie drafts. Mm-hmm. And I can always trade one of those guys and get whatever I want afterwards, outside of probably quarterback.
Sure.
If I could hit on other receivers. So the receiving core, like I said before, is that core of that Dynasty team because it's the most consistent position you're going to have on your roster, right? The one that's going to finish where they normally finish pretty consistently, right? Justin Jefferson probably a wide receiver 1 for 9-10 years,
right.
Which is
it's the exact opposite of the running backs that we're always talking about. It's like a revolving door of the top. Sure. The top 12 guys. It is pretty consistent year in and year out. Who's going to be a wide receiver 1? There's always a couple of guys kind of shuffling in and out.
In there.
But 2 or 3. It's not like the entire thing, except for 2 or 3 guys. You know what I mean?
Right.
And that's what you want. And if you could build that core, it takes so much pressure off. Me having those 3 receivers means I haven't drafted another receiver yet, which I will, but like I'll probably get like a Sky Moore, an older guy, like guys I could take some risk on, and then in rookie drafts take risk on because I know for the next 7 years, those guys are locked in. Right. Like I just have to worry about bye weeks and injuries. That's it at my receiver position. And the same thing again, it's like getting a young quarterback in Superflex, why it's so valuable. Like the pressure of not having to find one in the draft or make moves or trades, like it's so nice and let you focus on, and what you want to be able to do is focus on that running back position, right? Yep. The quick trades for the older guys, like right now getting, like we talked about buys last week, the Dalvin Cooks, the Joe Mixons, those kind of players, which are cheaper and you can fill in, plug and play and compete for ships. And then obviously in your rookie draft, you want to be in a position to go out, draft a guy, plug and play him, and go from there. So getting a good young receiver is huge. And sometimes you can find value for trading for a receiver. It's out there. It's not all, and it's hard to do because those windows are like open and shut as they, in quick years. So to be able to find a young receiver and trade for him, like we're not going to come on the show and say, if everybody's listening and you're a contender, it should be clearly evident. Like go out there and trade for Devontae Adams, trade for Keenan Allen. Sure. Like Keenan Allen's probably the best one. Tyreek Hill, announced he's only playing for 2 years. There's probably a dip there. All those older receivers, of course, we're not gonna come out here and say go buy those players. Sure. They're clear as day. I think some of the players we're going to talk about are guys that you could buy if you're you're starting to turn around and you're not in complete rebuild mode, or you're a contender.
So that Tyreek one, I want to go back to that. I know you were just kind of using that as an example. I was looking into him today for this buy sell show, just doing some research and whatnot. I think there's a team option for 2026 on there as well. So I know he said once this contract's done, I'm out, and everyone is assuming 2025 is the year he's done.
Oh, but there's a team option.
There's a team option.
It could be a third year.
So there might be a third year.
Secret third year.
Secret third year on there. So
Buy.
He might be a sneaky buy.
Ooh, he might be a sneaky buy
because he might have a third year on there.
Well, Devontae's
should have saved that for you.
I know. I should have said that, but we
got other guys.
We got it. Yeah, we got other guys.
I was going to say I had like 6 different players that I could have picked as my buy.
So I'm going to lead off with my favorite buy. And that's Chris Godwin.
Is it your favorite Williams?
No, Williams.
Favorite Williams.
He doesn't even remember the joke.
He doesn't even remember. The Javonte Williams.
Remember the Javonte Williams?
That I thought
favorite Williams.
That I thought said favorite.
I just drafted Javonte Williams.
Did you?
In the Kings Classic.
It's the same one you were just talking about.
Yeah, my first share ever of all time.
It feels good, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, not really, to be honest with
it
you.
Feels amazing.
I don't love it.
I'll say it feels
the
good
value's
for you.
there. Like I probably won't be able to use them this year, but like the value's there. ACLs are. You got to wait a year.
He's gonna.
And speaking of ACLs and wait a year, Chris Godwin. Right? Like, so Chris Godwin, he played last year, ended up being wide receiver 19 overall. Wide receiver 17 in points per game, averaged 14.9 points per game, which was I find overly impressive because, well, one, they threw a ball a ton with Tom Brady, but like coming off that, like he made a miraculous comeback to come back from an ACL to even be ready, makes that big comeback. Obviously, then that first week hurts his ACL and he's out for a couple games. But he comes back in.
Was that it? It was a retweak of the ACL.
Oh, the hamstring. I'm sorry.
I was going to say I didn't think it was a retweak.
Yeah, he came back from the ACL. Then he hurt his hamstring. Missed the first 2 weeks. And we're like, oh, great. After some people didn't even think he'd be able to start the year because of the ACL. But ended up finishing the year as wide receiver 19. Like I said, wide receiver 17 in points per game. But if you also look at Chris Godwin from weeks 9 to 18, the second half of the year, he was wide receiver 8 overall in PPR leagues. This is a guy who's only 27, won't be till 28 until the season's over. He signed through 2024. And when you look at him over the last couple of years, in 2021, last year, he was wide receiver 15. He was wide receiver 8, though, on points per game basis, 17.3 points per game. And if you actually go back, like he was wide receiver 15, but if you go through the weeks he actually played 1 through 15, which was when he tore his ACL, he was wide receiver 6 overall. In 2020, he was wide receiver 31 overall, but on a points per game basis, wide receiver 15. He missed 4 games that year as well. And of course, we all remember 2019, his sophomore year, where he was wide receiver 2 overall, averaging 19.7 points per game. So, with the quarterback change, no more Tom Brady. With what some consider him being wide receiver 19, a down year, him only being 27, he's one of my absolute favorite buys in Dynasty right now because he's always been really consistent when he's on the field, producing top 10 fantasy wide receiver numbers. And right now, to get that kind of player that put up that kind of production, outside the big guys, like you have to overpay. And right now for Chris Godwin, you could probably get him from. So basically, if I had picked 1-7 on, right, like I was in the playoffs, I lost. Or I was in a play. If you play in my leagues and you pick 7, that means you won your toilet bowl playoff league, which should be every rule in every league, by the way.
Yes, love that rule.
Yeah. So right now from 1-7 to 112, you could probably get Chris Godwin for that pick, and he's a fantastic advert. Any team that's like right there in the middle, they're going on. You're getting a guy you probably put in your roster for at least the next 3 years, and give you worst case scenario wide receiver 2 numbers. Like his years where he gets hurt and he misses time or he tears ACL and starts off slow, he's still a mid-range to high-end wide receiver 2.
And that's the thing with Godwin. It's always been his availability. You know, he always misses time. When he's there, he's usually doing very good things. It is, you're going to miss chunks of time. So you have to almost work around that and kind of know that's built into his game. You're going to be missing a chunk of games here and there. And as long as he's not your number 1 guy,
correct,
I think you can work around that. You know what I mean? If he's your number 1 guy, you're going to have a hard time with that. And you're going to have a hard time, being a championship caliber, team, because it's just, there's that little bit of unknown with him.
There's always a risk of an injury guy.
Right.
And you're right. That's always going to be the risk for him. But you do, like you said, you want him to be your wide receiver 2, and hopefully you buy him as your wide receiver 3 if you're starting to be contended. Like, say you have a couple older guys, say you have Amon-Ra, St. Brown, Tyreek Hill, and then your third wide receiver is, I don't know, Donovan Peoples. That's a terrible thing.
Michael Thomas. Yeah,
someone was like, Chris Godwin's a great go out there and get. I mean, I'd be actually comfortable if I had like pick 12. Like I'd give 212 and 112. Like no problem for Chris Godwin. Me personally, which might
I don't
seem
think
like
that's a bad deal.
Was good. Something like 2 a first and a second. Yeah, it's 2 late picks. If I have 1-7, I'm giving up straight up, right? Because like if I'm in mid range, like would I rather take Jordan Addison and wait a couple years for him to develop, or rather get Chris Godwin, throw him in there? And with Baker Mayfield, if it all works out for Baker Mayfield in Tampa Bay, then obviously Chris Godwin's golden, right?
For sure.
And if it doesn't,
that's the big question mark.
Guess what? They'll have a new quarterback in 2024 anyways.
He is on the franchise tag too, so he could be on a different team anyway.
Who?
Chris Godwin. Isn't he on the franchise tag?
He's re-signed.
Oh, did they sign him?
He signed through 2024.
Oh, my bad. I missed that.
He signed a 3-year deal.
Okay.
So he's actually signed all the way through next year as well.
Okay.
And what Baker Mayfield does is actually come in. Like Baker Mayfield somewhat hurts like Mike Evans, right? Like Mike Evans, that deep threat, go out, big time throw. Where Baker Mayfield's a lot more comfortable with the shorter passes out there. And that's where Chris Godwin's going to come in and win. I'm not a big Rashad White guy this year too. I think this team is going to, try to run the football, but they're going to end up having to throw the football. And Chris Godwin's going to be the benefit of that. So even though he didn't look himself 100% early in the year last year, and it took him a little time to develop, always remember that this is something that the ACL, it's always a year afterwards. And something that's going to come in and average about 16 to 17 points per game, that is Dynasty gold.
Yeah.
It really is. It's that high-end wide receiver 2 window, and that's where you win in Dynasty, getting those kind of guys. We've been talking about that for years, those high-end wide receiver 2s that get diminished.
Let me ask this question, because I'm 100% with you. I think Chris Godwin's a really good buy. I bought him last year. I was glad I did. My only small nugget of concern, other than Baker, if it works out or not, is he had a really, really high target number last year. He was actually 6th overall in targets per game. So are we worried a little bit that they're not going to throw the ball a ridiculous amount like they did with Tom Brady last year, that 9.5 targets per game, which is really high, goes closer to 7.5 per game, and then we don't have quite the target numbers that we did before?
142 is what he had last year.
I think he's the number 1 on that team. I mean, obviously you have Mike Evans there too. And I think the team's going to know their 2 best weapons are going to be the receivers, right? And they also have Russell Gage there, so I'm not going to, and they're paying him okay money, so I'm not going to throw him to the wayside. But I don't believe in Rashad White enough to think that's going to be their ground. Like, that's what they're going to go with. And Raheem, he's coaching for his job. So it's not like he's going out there just to tank it up, right?
Oh, no, he's got to win or he's done.
They're in the NFC. So that's another positive.
Easier division.
There's easy wins there, so they should be in a lot of games as well. In today's NFL, you're going to throw the football. And they're going to want to see what they have in Baker Mayfield, too. They need a quarterback. So they're going to give him a legit chance. I know the first day of OTAs, he took 70% of the first team snaps. So, there's a concern there. But, we could say the same concern with anybody as a fresh quarterback, that's coming in here. So, no, because I think the talent is there. And I think the talent will rise to the top. And just like he did it with, He did it with Jameis Winston.
Yeah.
He can come out and make Baker Mayfield better. And you could argue this is going to be Baker Mayfield's best receiving core he's ever played with.
No, I mean, I think their top two guys are better than any other top two guys. I mean, he played with Odell and Jarvis, but these two guys
weren't on the same page at all.
Right. These two guys I think are better. I mean, we'll see if he gets on the same page with Mike Evans and what's his name here? What's his name that we're talking about?
The guy with the hands,
the God and the wind, and the Godwin guy.
Godwin.
I mean, I know everybody wants to go out and buy a 25-year-old good receiver, but the price tag is ridiculous.
It's not worth it.
You're giving up. You're literally unless you drafted really well in a lot of picks, you're subtracting from your team pretty drastically. They'll get an Amon-Ra St. Brown.
And Godwin would be this guy that's ridiculously overpriced if it wasn't for the fact that he missed his time. Mm-hmm. And that's his deal. That's why you're getting him at a reduced price. When he's there, he produces.
And you're fine. That's what you're looking for, right? That's why there's outlet malls that exist. You're looking for that bang for your buck, that good deal. Oh yeah, I know he came out 5 drafts ago, but wow, is this on sale for a third of the price?
It's still in style.
And you're looking for that. And honestly, when you play Dynasty, that's what I'm doing. Everybody's oh, my rookie, my rook. Your first should be whatever you can do to make your team better, right? That's what it's there for. So once you're outside that top 7 and you're a playoff team and contender, you're looking for people to help you take that next step. For the most part, rookie receivers, rookie tight ends, and rookie quarterbacks aren't helping you take that step. So if you need receiver help, this is the move. It's my number 1 Dynasty wide receiver buy. Matt, what are you going with?
All right, I'm going to move on to a guy that actually was on the move this past offseason, Elijah Moore. So right now he's sitting at 115 as far as our ADP, which is good for wide receiver 48 off the board.
Say what?
23 years old, obviously former second-round draft pick. He just turned 23 as well, so he's a young 23. Last year finished as wide receiver 80. Obviously not great numbers. There were big-time issues between him and Zach Wilson. When Zach Wilson started a game, our guy Elijah Moore here averaged 3.67 fantasy points per game on 2.55 targets. And there were a couple of games where he didn't get targeted at all. And, there was back and forth after games.
He should demand a trade.
Back and forth with him in the ball.
Right. In games, it wasn't amazing when Elijah Moore got, or a different quarterback was there. I think he averaged 8 fantasy points a game, but there was obviously an uptick. You know what I mean? And he got almost 6 targets a game with the other quarterbacks, Mike White and
Joe Flacco.
So it was much better, but obviously he's a classic guy, high second round draft pick, flashed big time right at the end of his rookie season.
Correct. He had wide receiver 3 overall.
Right, he had 400.
Amazing.
I'm missing the stats here. I lost them somewhere. 459 yards and 5 touchdowns in 6 games until he tweaked I think it was a quad, and he missed week 17, 18.
Yeah, it was even before that, because it was weeks 7 through.
It was a 6-game stretch, and he scored.
Yeah, it was just a monster.
And
7 through
he just
13,
went berserk
8 through 14
in his rookie season. 459 yards, 5 touchdowns in 6 games, and then he tweaks it.
I remember because he was wide receiver 3 overall.
He tweaked a quad, and he missed the rest of the season. So that was 2021. 2022 was the debacle I had already just talked about. Him and Wilson not being on the same page. So. A guy with talent. Undeniable. I think going back to college, we all liked him very much.
Love him.
Yeah. So he gets a change of scenery, and this wasn't like a throwaway trade. This was
at all.
The Browns gave up their second-round draft pick, 42nd overall. That was their first pick in this draft.
It was.
And they got a third-round pick back, but it was this number 74 pick. So, that's a big-time jump when that's your first pick to go from 42 all the way back to 74. So they obviously saw something they liked.
They loved him during that draft. They want him during his draft as well.
Right. So I think it makes a lot of sense that they're bringing on a guy that they really like, but also if you dig in a little bit, it looks like right now he's in a pretty crowded room. It's got Donovan Peoples-Jones, who kind of is starting to emerge a little bit and look like a guy that can play a little bit in the NFL. Sure. And obviously Amari Cooper's there, who is the veteran. Big-time one. Yeah, the big-time guy there. But when you dig in a little bit, you look at Amari Cooper's contract, and I think they'll probably make it work, but there's a potential out there next year where they can save about $12 million against the cap if they get rid of Amari Cooper, who's 29 or is going to be 29, next month and going to be getting close to 30, next season, and they could save $12 million without making it a post June 1st cut, and $18 million against the cap if they make him a post June 1st cut next year. So this is a guy that he could be the next guy up, and Donovan Peoples-Jones is in the last year of his deal as well. So potentially, you're looking at a guy, Elijah Moore, that right now is going dirt cheap on our trade finder. It's Elijah Moore and a third for a second,
right?
And stuff like that. I mean, like I saw that,
which is just what happened in the real draft too.
Exactly.
I got him. I got him straight to the Browns for 2 seconds.
Elijah Moore and a third for Gabe Davis. Like those are just ridiculous trades, in my opinion.
Absolutely.
Anyway. For a guy that could be looking himself as the number one option in an offense that has Deshaun Watson hopefully gets it turned around, and it's going to be him and like Cedric Tillman there next year. I mean, that could be potentially the wide receiver duo that is the starters here in Cleveland. And there's other guys there: Anthony Schwartz, David Bell, guys that
filler.
They're filler.
Schwartz ain't making the roster.
They're fillers, and I wrote in my notes. I wouldn't be surprised if Schwartz is gone, and maybe even David Bell if he doesn't start producing. I think really them kind of drafting these past couple of years and continuing to draft guys and bringing
this
guys.
This is the third year in a row they've drafted a third round receiver. Like
right,
they haven't been happy with the production.
They really have not. So it just all spells to me like great value, young player. Loved him coming out of the draft, and now you dig into the numbers a little bit as well, which is always something I like to do. The Browns only have $6 million right now of cap space. They've been eating away. They used to be, 3-4 years ago, they were one of these teams that had the top amount, and they've been chipping away, getting more and more. And they got Wills on the 5th-year option, but his cap hit goes from $6 million this year to $14 million next year. So there's some guys taking some big jumps. They got to get Newsome signed, the first-round cornerback. So it's one of these things where they might be looking for space, and they might find it at the wide receiver position.
Yeah, but
what
they'll do is they'll keep reworking Deshaun Watson's deal every single year. They'll probably redo Miles. Miles probably get his deal redone. Maybe get some fake years added onto it or years added onto it. The cap's gonna go up significantly these next couple of years.
Worst case scenario, he's still the number 2 option to Amari Cooper, who's going to be 30 next year.
So
which to me is still a good scenario for a player like this. That's only 23 years old.
And I love that. I personally believe that Amari will be back next year. I think he's too good not to come back at that price tag at $20 million. I think it's a really good deal for a number 1 wide receiver. So I do think he'll come back. But that's no negative against, and I'm with you about Elijah Moore. I think what that does is give Cedric Tillman time to see if he can develop the next 2 years to take over to be that outside receiver for Amari Cooper. And I think Elijah Moore would be locked in the slot. I mean, you could probably put him outside as well. Love this tape. Love his ability versus man coverage to get open consistently. Love his hands. I mean, we talked about when he was coming out, like this guy was able to make catches like when the ball was on the ground. Like his hands are unbelievable.
And he's going to need that.
And like you mentioned that what they gave up for him. This is a team, they were really big on Elijah coming out of college as well, that this is like they have 2 years. Look at him. He's probably in their long-term plans as it signs out. So he'll probably get that extension at some point as well if he can show up, which I think he will because I believe in a player.
And he's got this year and next year on his rookie deal still.
Correct. So I mean, I think we talked before, like you hope, like for me personally as a Browns fan, like the way I hope it turns out is Cedric Tillman and Elijah Moore are the future receiving core of the Browns. Like that's how you hope like 4 years from now what it looks like. So for the price tag, like you mentioned, I got him after news break for 2 seconds. Like if you're getting a guy like this with the potential to be the number 2 option and a team that's going to throw the football a ton. Remember, probably Nick Chubb's probably got 2 more years left. So a team that already plans going this year to throw a football a ton. The Browns offense is planned out to look completely different in 2023. They really do want to throw the football a ton. That's one of the negative things you say about Chubb. It's just he wins no matter what. So I think it's great value.
Yeah, the big thing for me here is just the guys around him, ADP-wise. I would just prefer him over a lot of the guys in the range. The receivers going right before him, Marvin Mims, Rashee Rice, like both nice upside players, but we have no idea what we're getting out of them. We haven't seen them touch a field yet, and we had questions about some of the things on their tape. Marvin Mims is in a little more crowded room. And then right after him, Gabe Davis and Jaden Reed. So it's just a lot of like what if players, and Elijah Moore is too. Elijah Moore is absolutely a what if player, but there's a much clearer path to what he could be. And we've at least seen those moments of he looks really good. Will it all come together? We'll have to wait and see. That's why he's down this far, but we've at least seen it on tape.
We've seen him win, like Matt said, in a 6-week span in the NFL. Yep. So like, we know he can do it at the NFL level. It's just about opportunity. And it's every player. Like, you want to be in position to win. Like, just because, like Tim Patrick is a fine NFL receiver, but he's the third, maybe now fourth option in Denver. You know what I mean? So same thing. Like, Donovan Peoples is a fine, okay receiver, but like, he's not a fantasy winner. And that's what we're trying to look for here. Right. And that's what Elijah Moore is in position to do. Garret, who do you got?
All right. So we mentioned it earlier on the show, but Matt and I are both wearing Bears attire here. There's a reason, is because we're gonna be debating a little bit here on this player, because it's a player that I've liked, Rich has liked,
loved, don't like love.
Matt is not very fond of this player.
Just lukewarm.
That's generous.
Dude, he hates DJs, and he doesn't need more, he needs less.
That's right. So I'm going from one more to another more to more. We're going with DJ Moore.
My Moore's better.
Is he?
Not really.
More like DJ less.
Not really.
So DJ Moore last year, wide receiver 24, currently going off in our ADP as wide receiver 66 off the board, wide receiver 25. So he's basically going very similar to where he finished last year. And
it's a wide receiver 3.
So you're getting him right now as a wide receiver 3. Now, this is a player that is in the prime of his career right now. Was traded from a young upside or a bad team, not a great situation, to a team with a young upside quarterback that maybe has a little bit of question marks about passing the football, but we've seen be a dynamic playmaker. We've seen a very similar trend play out twice in very recent memory with the Buffalo Bills, a young quarterback that was good at running the football, question marks about throwing the football. They added Stephon Diggs to this mix. All of a sudden, great passing offense. Bam! Last year, A.J. Brown goes to the Philadelphia Eagles, to a quarterback that had question marks about him throwing the football, but they really needed that number one playmaker. All of a sudden last year,
they drafted Devontae Smith. Bam!
They also drafted Devontae Smith too. I think we could see a similar situation play out. Now, I think it would be a little bit of a pipe dream to say that he's going to put up the exact numbers that A.J. Brown and Stephon Diggs put up their first season.
Dude, then call me Mario Brothers.
Dude, you missed the draw. I draw.
I'm dead.
Yeah, I got you, man. Sorry.
Dang it. Well, you can keep talking.
No, after you.
I'm deceased. But I think we could see something very similar play out. There have been very little in the receiving options there for Justin Fields. It's once again another player that's in the second year of the same offense with the same coordinators, and now you're adding in this new piece. A lot of things that I really like. And one of the biggest questions, people were like, but DJ Moore's going to an offense where I don't know how many targets he's going to get. They don't throw the ball a lot. Well, it can't get a lot worse. He only averaged 6.9 targets per game last year. Hardly anything for a player of that caliber. Still put up nearly 900 yards and 7 touchdowns. He's been a very consistent he was wide receiver 24 last year, very consistent wide receiver 2. But he could, if everything goes right, get bumped up to that high-end wide receiver 2 and maybe even a wide receiver 1 this year.
Yeah, I'm all in.
So,
but you debate.
No, here's the deal. I'm finally on board with where this guy's getting drafted and everything. That I like him. You know what I mean? Like, so
look at this.
It was when DJ Moore was getting pumped up as this, like, he was going as like wide receiver 10. That's where I had an issue because he wasn't there yet for me.
I can take him there.
I will have an issue with somebody taking him as the wide receiver. I just don't think he's there yet. Could he get there with this combination? Sure. Anyone that gets pumped enough targets can do that and be that good. He's a fine player. I just don't think he's an excellent player, which is where he was kind of getting pushed up to.
To be fair, the Stephon Diggs, DJ Moore parallels in this situation are hilarious because was a guy you hated. He got traded to a young quarterback.
Get it.
It's really funny.
I get it. Lightning only strikes once, though.
Can I ask you a couple guys that he's behind in ADP just for the Matt quiz?
Yeah.
Guys he's behind in ADP. Jerry Jeudy.
Those guys are pretty. I'll take Jeudy.
Okay. I'll take more.
It's real close though.
Treylon Burks.
More.
Quentin Johnson.
Break. Who?
Quentin Johnson.
I would take DJ Moore over Quentin.
Jordan Addison.
I would take DJ Moore over Jordan Addison.
Deebo Samuel.
I would take Deebo.
Christian Watson.
I would take Moore over Watson.
You missed one in there.
Michael Pittman.
I would take Pittman.
I know that. That's why I kind of
That's why you skipped it.
Here's an interesting one.
Yeah.
Would you rather have DJ Moore at 25 years old or Devontae Adams at 30 years old?
Oh,
that's tough, right?
That one is hard. That one's harder than I thought.
I know. These are all guys ahead of DJ Moore too, and I think that's a big thing too about DJ Moore that I've always been so big on is like. You mentioned before, like, oh, well, people don't like the high-end wide receiver twos. And, like, I do think DJ Moore falls in that category of, like, a high-end wide receiver two with the potential to be a wide receiver one sneaky back end.
He could be like what Robert Woods was for a long time.
And he was producing it so young. And now
I'm
he's
cool
25.
if that is the expectation.
Yeah.
It's the people that think he can get into this upper echelon of wide receivers. That's where I have an issue.
He has a talent where he could get up there if he got the touchdowns and receiving yards.
If he was better.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Exactly. If he got all the touchdowns that he doesn't score and
he got
all the
7
yards
this year.
that he doesn't
He got
get.
7. It was a lot more than 4.
A lot more.
This is the production isn't there to warrant that kind of
I think
elevated
he's consistent.
kind of.
I think he's consistent. I think he's young.
Yeah.
I think he's in a much better offense.
My interesting one, him or McLaurin, like those are the guys that I see.
DJ Moore.
Right. But
Give me the year.
for me, it's close.
McLaurin's actually a really good value if you have them that close because he's wide receiver 32 at pick 80.
Okay.
So because
he's a really good value.
Because we went out here and said McLaurin's a hard sell after last year and his ADP drop.
We told you.
Yeah, I mean, it's a youth too. Like he's just like a dynasty package, right? Like you're getting somebody who's pretty consistent, a really solid receiver. The team just gave up a lot to get him.
Are you winning a championship with him as your wide receiver 2?
Yes.
I think you could, but I think you feel a lot better if he's a wide receiver 3, which is technically where you're drafting him right now, wide receiver 25.
But then you trade for Chris Godwin.
I feel great about him.
But then you trade for Chris Godwin.
Now.
Sure.
That's why I feel great about him now.
Okay, so you guys aren't even arguing.
Yeah,
No.
I thought this was going to be like gloves off.
I wore this shirt
to support
because I knew that you were going to think I wanted to throw down, but I don't want to
All
throw
right,
down
both you
right
guys
now.
take your
Hold
shirts
hands.
off at the same time, and now I get to see 4 nipples.
We're back on the nipples.
Ooh, it's cold in here. Yeah, always. Yeah, my wife doesn't get it, but she'll come around. So yeah, I mean, obviously, I'm a huge DJ Moore fan.
Right.
I have so many shares because I constantly trade for him. I'm just
Like I'm going to consistently be the lowest out of the 3 of us.
Sure.
But I'm fine.
But you're in a similar
I'm
range
fine
now.
where he's at.
But
now.
Garrett
I think-
mentioned, you know where you were on Stephon Diggs before too, and now look where we're going to get you.
Where's Stephon Diggs?
I don't know, top
All right.
5 NFL receiver.
All right. Well, I think he's kind of overvalued right now.
Oh, he's guaranteed to be on the Bills for 2 years. We'll talk about it next show.
Well, let's talk about FFPC right now, though.
I love FFPC.
Yes.
They are fantastic.
Should stand for Never Folds Fantasy.
Never folds?
No,
FFPC stands for never folds.
Forget folding.
Yeah.
Partake championships.
There you go.
Give me 5 minutes to think about it.
Yep.
When I'm not talking Dynasty. I'll come with a great acronym for you.
Launched in 2010, over 1,000 active leagues. You can look at $100 leagues. You can look. Don't talk too loud if you're supposed to whisper.
Totally
Up to
terrible at whispering.
$5,000 leagues.
$5,000 leagues.
Yeah, you can. I mean,
I want to join a $5,000 Dynasty
imagine
league.
winning that.
Oh my gosh.
The only thing is, like, I want to join it with somebody, so it's really $2,500.
So just join $2,500 a week at that point.
But it's nice to have out there, right? Like they have, like, can you imagine being like, so you listen to a show and you're like, these guys like aren't as smart as me, which is totally incorrect. But you think that, like, you have an opportunity. Like, there's not a lot of places to go out there and play for that much money in fantasy football and Dynasty.
If you play for that, your take home, if you win that league, could be close to like the average salary in America, just from winning that league.
Yeah, you're right. $50,000.
Yeah.
Yeah, and if you play in a whole bunch of those leagues, please send me
Play
and
a whole
Matt.
bunch of those.
Please send me and Matt the $2 million. We'll do this full time, and we'll help
For
guide you
you.
to many
Yes.
championships.
And send me $500,000.
Here comes cheap.
Please, just let me in on this.
No, but I don't think we talk about that as well about FFPC. Like, there's not a lot of opportunity out there to go play these high-stake dynasty leagues where you could go join.
Like legitimate high stakes. Like we talk about high stakes is like $300. No, they have like serious money on the table.
And they have something else, they'll fill your spot. So, like, if you're like, dude, I joined this league, I did really bad, or like I did really good, you can be like, okay, I'm ready to dip. Like, yeah.
See it, deuces. And that's what. And there's tons of orphans available. Sometimes you'll even get discounts on some of those teams. Not anymore.
Yeah, most of those are gone.
Those are gobbled up. But there's some bones you can pick at. You know, some of the scraps.
Wishbones
left over.
Never fold fantasy leagues. FFPC.
I call it the FFPC. I said the fantasy football party.
Where's the P at?
Dude, don't look too hard. Don't look too hard.
It makes a lot of sense if you don't think about it. All right, go to myffpc.com. Use promo code NERDS for $25 off any entry. That's promo code NERDS at myffpc.com. We'll give you your money back for that at FFPC. Sorry about that.
Just look it up on the dark web.
Dark web. Okay. Next buy for me is gonna be Diontae Johnson.
What? Seemed like you surprised yourself on that.
No, it's just another. Well, again,
It is?
I was looking for like value at the young guys.
No,
right?
I
Like,
love this one.
with production. Like, I'm not going to here and say Sky Moore. And again, we're not talking about these veterans, but Diontae Johnson's. I mean, I've been talking now probably for like 6 months. Like, I've casually said in the show, like, ooh, is Diontae Johnson one of the best values in fantasy right now in Dynasty? And he is, because just a year ago in 2021, so not a year ago, but a year and a half ago, he was wide receiver 8 overall in PPR leagues. And right now he's going as like wide receiver 38, which is nuts. Like, he's going as like a low end wide receiver 3 to wide receiver 4. People are treating Diontae Johnson. And it's probably because of Kenny Pickett. It's probably because they drafted George Pickens, and everybody's talking about George Pickens when Diontae Johnson, one of the best route runners in the league, is there. It's a true number one.
I couldn't love this more. And typically we have like a correlation between the most targeted players in the league and the most fantasy points in the league. You look at a lot of the top names: Justin Jefferson, Devontae Adams, Tyreek Hill, Stephon Diggs, CeeDee Lamb. Those are the top 5.
I mean, who's number 6? Garret with 147. Who's number 6?
Garrett Wilson, and tied with him, Diontae Johnson.
Son of a bitch.
And right below him, Amon-Ra St. Brown, A.J. Brown, like that. Those things typically go hand in hand. Those are some of the best receivers in the league.
So why are people so sad and now taking him as wide receiver 38?
Because they're dumb.
No, it's because
I like how you pronounce the B.
Yeah.
Dumb.
Like, he's about to call me Dumbo, which would be the first time I've been called that. There's this size, you know what I mean? You know what I'm saying?
Here, a mile away.
Way to take me back to grade school, Garrett. Yeah, I mean, 0 touchdowns. The Ofer. He's Miles Sanders, 2021 as well. You know what I mean? And then what happened to Miles Sanders? Got a 4-year contract. All of a sudden, he's stud muffin. People want him again. Yep. Well, not everybody.
He's actually a good buy.
Yeah, he's a good buy. We talked about him, right?
Yeah,
yeah.
probably.
So, he's somebody comes in and he consistently. This is somebody before that averaged about 7 touchdowns per year. Is what he was averaging before getting the offer last year. And if you took him and you just gave him his average last year, he's going to come in and finish right around like mid-range wide receiver 2 by just giving him 7 touchdowns, which isn't. I know it's like, oh yeah, give everybody 7 touchdowns, but he's the number 1 receiver on this team. And you mentioned about Justin Fields, like Kenny Pickett's entering year 2 of this offense with a much better offensive line, a still crappy offensive coordinator, but maybe
it's
he can
the
turn
same
around.
one at least.
But at least it's the same one. They have George Pickens to help open things up, even though he's not going to get a lot of separation. They're bringing Allen Robinson as well. They have Pat Freiermuth. They're bringing a monster of Goliath to hold the door, and that's Darnell Washington. Hold the door.
Hold door.
So he's somebody that comes out right now. He's got the youth. He's got the contract. He's going to give you over 10 points per game in fantasy football. And he can be had for like probably a couple seconds, like 2-1 if you're sitting there and somebody really wants like Kendra Miller or a tight end on the board if you're in tight end premium. Like Diontae Johnson can be had. He's available. He's going as a wide receiver 38, and he's a fantastic route runner. He's super young. He's got a young quarterback to kind of grow that rapport with. Doesn't mean he's going to be there long term, but there's a chance Diontae Johnson gets re-signed again by the Pittsburgh Steelers. I know everybody thinks this is a clear path to the George Pickens show. I don't think that, because I think you need a player like Diontae Johnson that can get open with route running and get separation that way. It just, all the cards didn't come together for Diontae yet last year. because they had a rookie quarterback, and it takes time for those guys to develop. I know everybody thinks everybody's going to come in a rookie year and just blow the doors off. That's not the case. It takes time. They got to get better. And already, if you read the Pittsburgh beat writers, a lot of those people were predicting that Kenny Pickett takes a big step forward this year. And honestly, even on the first OTA, people thought he was zipping the ball a little bit better already. It takes time for these guys to develop.
He flashed.
Diontae Johnson's the number one. He flashed. How many fourth quarter comebacks did Kenny Pickett have last year? He literally almost sent the Pittsburgh Steelers to the playoffs last year. So for me, any chance, again, I'm always looking for these opportunities to get these guys that have a down year for any reason, whether it be injuries or something like this, where it pops up where no touchdowns and their fantasy production drops off. It made Miles Sanders a buy as well. You look for these outliers or these anomalies that come in there to find the dips in these receivers, and you follow the ADP. And when you get a guy that was a wide receiver 1 just a year before, and now all of a sudden he slips down so far, literally because he didn't score touchdowns, but he's still getting the same target share, and you expect the offense to be better, that screams buy to me. I felt this way for the last 6 months already about Diontae, and now that we finally have an opportunity to talk about wide receiver buys, I get to shout it into the microphone. And I like your guys' buys as well, but for me personally, Chris Godwin and Diontae Johnson are the number 1 and the number 2 buys in all of Dynasty at the receiver position. Where I love Elijah's upside, and I love
DJ Moore. Yeah,
I love DJ Moore.
Mine was based off price and upside. And I was all.
I love you so much, good. I don't remember who.
I just know I have so many Moores. It's for
next
me,
one, Sky Moore.
I mean, DJ Moore's always been a buy,
a fan favorite.
But like I said it before, like to get these guys in that 25 to 27 range and find those windows, it's hard to come by. And guys that that have done it already. We talk about DJ Moore, what we believe he can do behind wide receiver 2. We're talking about 2 guys here that have been wide receiver 1s already. And we know at the one position that it's easier to finish as a wide receiver 1 again outside the running back position. It's a receiver position. Love Diontae Johnson.
There we go.
Got anything on Johnson? I mean, there wasn't a lot of meat left on that bone.
Yeah, no, I mentioned the targets in the beginning.
Right.
That was the big thing for me. That I just thought it was crazy how many targets he got. I don't see that number dipping.
147.
I mean,
targets.
It's an absurd amount of targets. If he gets fed like that again, odds are he's going to creep up into those, 5, 6, 7, 8 touchdowns. Like he's going to be in that range. Just odds are he'll be there. So a guy that's that consistent, a better offense, all of that comes together. It's a great buy.
I think he's going to take 147 targets, only 86 receptions. So there's got to be, I think, a little bit more consistency or a better turnover rate there next season to warrant that kind of targets again. But I think he's a good enough player to do that.
To show you how sneaky of a buy he is, I had somebody that I was talking to the other day, and they were like, what kind of receivers could I trade like my early second or late round first for? Like I'm trying to decide players. I want somebody like safer, a little more established. Who can I trade to get? And I talked about a couple guys. I was like, honestly, one of the best buys right now is Diontae Johnson. He's like, I forgot he existed. Like I literally forgot he was there. So like people have literally removed him so far from their mind that he's not even part of the equation for people anymore. And he could easily be a wide receiver.
And ADP shows it
easily.
Right.
The ADP shows it. It's why to me, it's why ADP is so important. It's not because like it's a Bible of your draft guide. It just shows you where the value is. And it shows you where the D value is too, where the sells is.
I think he's the number 1 guy. Like I double checked with you to make sure you were doing it because he needed to be talked about no matter what.
Yeah, he was the first guy that was on my list when we texted out. He was immediately the number 1 guy on my list because he's a buy. Matt.
All right, so my next guy is Jerry Jeudy. Right now going off the board, the 60th player, so wide receiver 24. Just turned 24 at the end of April, so it's another one of these guys that's super young and kind of devalued a little bit in my opinion. Last year finished as wide receiver 26 in PPR, and he basically missed 3 games. So it was 2 full games and then another game where he only had one target, no catches.
And on top of that, kudos to the Broncos being their passing game last year was abysmal.
Right.
With Russell.
Really bad.
Right. So he started really slow, obviously, with Russ at the beginning of the year, finished very strong. Weeks 13 through 17 for Jeudy, he was actually wide receiver 9 overall last year, and he really started to get consistent looks and targets. So week 13, 14, 15, 16, he got 9, 8, 10, and then week 17, another 8 looks. So that's kind of, what I would expect kind of going forward, because really at the same time he was establishing himself, I feel like Courtland Sutton was kind of throwing his hands up in the air, and like him and Russ were like completely on the opposite side.
He was
ledger.
injured also for a decent portion of that end of the season.
Right. So it's one of those things where, but even when he was playing and on the field, I feel like him and Russ did not click the way I thought that they were going to be clicking, because I thought it was going to be kind of a toss it up situation, and it was kind of, Russ wasn't looking his way. He was kind of like, what the hell's going on type of thing. But the Broncos went out and picked up Jeudy's 5th-year option, so he's there under control for this year and next year, which I think is huge for his dynasty value. Just to know that he's going to be there with Russ in this offense, the Sean Payton offense, I think is nice. And right now on the Trade Finder, a 2024 second-round draft pick is all you got to pay for a guy like Jeudy, that's in Superflex too.
And that's one league.
Right. I obviously one league, but another trade I saw in PPR, Jerry Jeudy and Zay Jones for Derrick Henry and a 2024 fourth. Like, wow. What are you giving up there? Like an old running back that who the heck knows?
30-year-old running back.
Right. Exactly. And a 4th-round draft pick to get Jerry Jeudy, like that to me is insane for a guy that's only 24 years old. And Sutton is coming up on he's got 1 or 2 years left on his contract, but they can get out and get a ton of money back on the
and they're trying to get out.
Right. I think it's $18 and $17 million are his cap hits the next 2 seasons, and they can save $10 million by cutting him at the end of next year. So another guy that is a very similar situation, but even better than the Elijah Moore that I was talking about earlier, because he has got a path and has shown on this team that he can be the wide receiver 1 overall. And as early as next season, I think he can be alone in that situation, along with some of these young guys, Tim Patrick and obviously Mims that they just drafted here in the second round. But Jerry Jeudy is by far and away the most talented out of the guys remaining, and Courtland Sutton, in my opinion, as well. So to me, it's just, if you can get him at anything close to a second round draft pick, you're stealing. But I would be fine giving a first.
A late first?
Yeah, late first, anywhere from 8, 9, 10 and back. I feel great about that.
If you love Jordan Addison, you got to love Jerry Jeudy, right? I mean, Jerry Jeudy is a phenomenal route runner.
Right.
You mentioned 2021, he had a high ankle sprain, so he missed time for there, so it wasn't really fair to him. He comes in last year with Russ with a terrible situation, but he still took advantage of that and came in and put up career high numbers, which is, I mean, after missing a year, his target share, his receptions, his touchdowns, all up.
This was the normal career arc for a lot of wide receivers not that long ago. You know what I mean? Like 7 years ago, this was how they developed. And it was year 3 where you were really looking for them to kind of turn it on, and he did. And some of the stuff that I didn't like about him in college, he's become more aggressive at the catch point. I think he's learned how to kind of work around some of the issues that I saw on tape in college, and kind of be more aggressive, which is hard, I think, for wide receivers to do. A lot of times you either are or you aren't.
Right.
And I think he's kind of overcome a little bit of that and gotten better as a pro.
And on the head too with that, pick up the 5th-year option, guaranteeing him 2 years or whatsoever. I think that screams right. I think 2 things. 3 things really. It screams right on the wall for Courtland Sutton. 1, all the off-season chatter about them trying to trade him.
Right.
I know they said both, but like
it was
Courtland Sutton.
Yeah.
The fact that they drafted Marvin Mims in the 2nd round of this NFL draft to replace another big receiver to replace him, and like you said, 2, picking up Jerry Jeudy's 5th-year option.
Well, I don't think Mims will replace the big receiver. He's a smaller guy with speed.
Yeah, I meant to say that outside receiver. So I meant to say.
I'm totally fine with drafting Jeudy. You guys did poo Sutton a lot, which I get. If everything being even, I would rather have Jeudy.
He's solid.
But for the price tag, I would much rather Sutton. Sutton's wide receiver 54. You get him at pick 142. So knowing who's like the established for sure wide receiver 1.
Listen, I'd
rather take Sutton.
Been playing that game, and I've had Sutton on my roster. He's just extremely frustrating.
I disagree with that. I think I don't think there is any confusion who the number one receiver is on this team because
we'll see. You started the year before he was injured. Sutton was the guy.
The target shares would say later in the year that was Jeudy was the guy.
Later when he was hurt.
And I think when they pick up his option, I think he's the guy.
We'll see. I mean, that could be true. I'm just saying for the price tag, I would rather wait like 8 rounds and take Courtland Sutton personally.
Yeah, but I mean, I feel there's like a lot of unknown with him as well, like where he's going to go. But you never know, it could pan out.
Courtland Sutton's a guy that I don't hate him. I've had on my roster since he was a rookie, and I've been incredibly frustrated, and to the point where I'm just like, I kind of out. Wash my hands.
His injuries have been really, really frustrating. He missed that entire year in 2020. Missed more time.
One of the worst things you can say about a guy is that he's got a ton of potential.
Oh yeah,
you know what I mean? It just means that he hasn't produced.
I said this podcast, it was like 3 years ago, and I was like, dude, I think Courtland Sutton's worth 2 first.
I remember that. I was
like, I mean, look at him, the guy. He's a wide receiver 1 now. Like that's what you're looking for, like immediate production from those high drafted like receivers. Like you look for that immediate production. If you're a first round receiver, you want to put over 500 yards in a rookie year. These are like all these like analytic stats that you want to come into and you want to produce right away. And Courtland Sutton did like right away. So like I said, his podcast, like he's worth 2 first. Like he's the future, like just another time I was wrong.
I liked him as well.
We've all been there.
It's just been he's been incredibly frustrating to have on your team.
Oh, I have him too. He's been very frustrated.
So I think I'm ready to just crown Jeudy the guy.
Me too.
And I think he is the odds-on favorite. I don't want it to sound like, Jared Jeudy should be drafted where he is, and I do think he's a value. So I don't want it to sound like I don't think he's a value. I'm just saying I'm not giving up on Courtland Sutton for that price tag.
You wanted the value is, going off of my buy, like Chris Godwin is there's another value when you talk about veterans to buy. It's Mike Evans.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Like he falls in that category of a good buy of a veteran guy, but we're not going to mention those guys because we're not going to come out here and say, buy these guys are discounted superstars because you all know that's the way you play Dynasty. Like,
all right,
go buy the old guys. You're a contender. Go buy the old guys.
All right. Last one here.
It better be the last one.
And I had like 4 or 5 different guys that I like tried to decide between.
You know what? I got all night. Let's get all 5 in. Let's go.
Do it,
I had Amari Cooper as one of them.
Yep,
I had all these different guys, but the one I ended up settling on is Jahan Dotson. And the reason I ended up settling on Jahan Dotson is
his last name's Dotson.
That's why.
He loves him.
It's interesting looking at all of these first round wide receivers from last year, because what happened last year is all these guys were drafted in the first round, and the one that was kind of like the redheaded stepchild that got taken way later in drafts was Jahan Dotson. And he produced. He looked really good last year, put up a lot of touchdowns, constantly open. Like he was just making plays. He had that stretch in the middle where he was injured, but once he came back, he went right back to it, just started scoring more touchdowns again, getting yards, getting open, all of that kind of stuff.
Touchdown only leagues goal
with Tyler Heineke as a starting quarterback.
Hey. We all like a good Heineken now and then.
I don't even think I said his name right. Was it Tyler or Taylor? I think it's Taylor. I don't even think I got his name right.
Don't worry about that. Don't fuss over the details.
Don't fuss over that kind of stuff.
T. Heineken.
But after proving that he's a legitimate playmaker, he's still all the way down as wide receiver 33. That's where you're getting him right now. A low-end wide receiver 3, that young. Now, the rest of the receivers...
Rolling Rock number, 33, right?
It is a Rolling Rock number. Heineken, Rolling Rock. Wow.
Yeah, this is... I smell a conspiracy.
I think so.
It's a beer conspiracy here.
Jameson Williams, good player, who we like.
What?
Interesting.
What is going on around here?
Drink.
Who we didn't get to see anything from.
Is going to be missing time.
When I drink, I can't see. Holy crap. This is getting wild.
This is one of Garrett's crazy conspiracy theories.
And then I gamble a bunch like Jameson Williams. No. Lose all my monies. Oh he's at wide receiver 26 at pick 67. So he's 15 picks ahead of him. And we think he's going to be good, but we didn't see much.
Right.
Treylon Burks in that same class up at wide receiver 23. And then a lot of the guys that deserve to be higher, like Garrett Wilson, Olave, those guys, they're up higher, obviously. And deservedly so. Yeah. But he produced, when he was healthy on the field, he produced just as good, if not better, than almost all of those guys. But he's still a huge discount, still way cheaper than everybody else. And I think Sam Howell is a better quarterback than Wentz and Heineke
Taylor,
and even if he's not, Jacoby's a very good, consistent quarterback that made Amari Cooper a wide receiver 1 last year. So I think the discount is still way too cheap. He's still a mid-round, first-round wide receiver in the NFL draft. I would love to get him there where he's going.
Dude, it's so easy. It's like doing a limbo under a 7-foot pole. You know, like I got this. No big deal. I'm not gonna bend back.
Don't even need to bend.
No, and I think where he gets buried is like I think of all the reasons you mentioned. One, you got Terry McLaurin there already, so like that's like you mean it's like oh he's a wide receiver too, and then a quarterback situation is so abysmal. People are like, I'm just staying away from that situation because it's ugly. You know, it's like it's what it is. So it's easy to fall. And I bet a lot of people even forget that he was a first round pick.
I think they do.
So I think that hurts as well. And you got to remember those guys, their hit rate is at least 50-50. So
and he's flashed enough that I feel like it's even better. I mean, you could tweak the odds and make that even better.
We're gonna start tweaking, guys. You take your shirt off. I mean, rules in my house. Sorry, looks like a studio, but it's still my house.
I mean, he put up 7 touchdowns in only what was it, like 10 games, something ridiculous like that. Had a few games over 100 yards. And his stretch of games towards the end, his target share just skyrocketed. 9, 6, 9, 7, 4, like. Just the last one, 4, obviously isn't super great, but he still had 72 yards on those 4. So he just produced last year.
And look at us giving you 6 young wide receiver buys. Where everybody else is out there taking the easy road, telling you about these 28 plus. Not us. We don't want to know that. This isn't an outlet mall. Come on, get together. Want the good stuff. We're going straight to the source. Yeah. So check them out. Buy them. Let us know if you get them. Send us some tweets. Let us know if you were able to make some purchases.
Trade calculator right now in Superflex League. Jahan Dotson for Cedric Tillman.
Oh my goodness.
Well, who's trade calculator?
I mean, not trade calculator. Our trade browser.
Trade finder.
Yeah.
Trade browser.
Yeah. Jahan Dotson for
Cedric Tillman.
Dude, I can't believe you couldn't get more for Tillman.
DJ Moore?
No. So that's it. We'll be back next week talking 1 quarterback and 1 tight end buy, 1 quarterback, 1 tight end sell, and then I'll be in Ireland. Thanks for the couple people that have already reached out to me that live out that way and like said, hey, I got some recommendations. I got a path I'm gonna go, but like if you live in Ireland, we can grab a pint. I'm 100% gonna go to Sean's bar. It's the oldest bar in the world. I'm probably gonna do a Twitter live there just because
do it.
I'm gonna be recorded somewhere. I'm gonna have a pint in the oldest bar in the world. So if anybody lives in Ireland, I'll cheers you.
Sweet.
Cheers you.
I'll cheers you. High fives?
All around.
Only if they got Dynasty Nerds shirts.
I'll be wearing. Yeah, I'll be wearing. I tell you what, if you live in Ireland and we're gonna have a pint, I will just let me know ahead of time and tell me your size. I'll bring you your shirt.
Wow. Look at that.
I'll pack it to go. My wife's making me bring in the go bag. I'm going to a wedding.
A to-go bag?
A to-go bag?
I'll buy a whole new.
Like a man bag?
No, like a carry-on. No, I mean, whatever the bags that you put under the plane.
A doggy bag.
No, that go on the plane. Not the carry-on.
You're gonna be a bag lady?
I always bring a book bag. I don't need a lot. Like I always bring more clothes than I need.
What are those? The clutches.
Yes,
little clutch purses.
yes.
So you're gonna make you bring a little clutch
No,
purse?
A fanny pack.
Yeah.
The bag that goes under the plane. Check bags.
Okay, all right.
We knew it the whole time. We just wanted you to find
You need to check yourself.
We were gonna make you do it. All right.
I hate this place.
Top of the morning to you.
Adios.